This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, a.k.a. the Python Hyena. And folks, last couple of years, two of my favorite times came to traveling to Toronto to Horror-rama, and I went when actress Lisa Langlois invited me, and I went back again the following year, and I had a blast again. And I'm hoping things work out for Horror-rama again this year, because that is the highlight for me. But during those 2 years, I got to meet a magician by the name of Ryan Brown. The first year I met him, he was donning black eye makeup and gray face, and last year he was going regular, dressed in black, gone regular, no face paint. I got the wonderful Ryan Brown on the phone with me today, who did some tricks for me right before my eyes, and I don't know how they do it, but he's going to talk to us today. How do you do, Ryan?
I'm awesome, and how are you, Greg?
I'm doing fantastic, and glad I finally got you on here. I've been flooded with a lot of guests, but when I put together my list for this year, I was like, I got to get Ryan on.
Yeah, this is exciting.
Yes. How's it in Toronto right now?
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's looking nice here, too, and I'm like, spring come. Please, spring come.
Yes, exactly, yeah. The weather's not too bad here.
Yeah, well, right now we're fine here, but I don't feel totally confident until we at least hit April, although April can be hit and miss, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. You ever been up my way before?
I haven't, but I've been out to British Columbia. I've been out to Quebec and Montreal, and Pennsylvania and different parts of the U.S. But I'm hoping to get out there.
Yes. You go get the Trailer Park Boys in your act?
Oh, that would be awesome. Do you know them?
Not personally. I would love to get them on the show, though. I'm working on it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. And if I could perform a magic trick for them one day, that would be a dream come true for me as well. So,
yeah. Well, you know what? It was awesome meeting you at Horror-rama the last couple of years, and I'd never traveled before. Like I lived here in New Brunswick my whole life, and Lisa I was a fan of since the '80s. So when she invited me. She was on my show twice, and I'm good friends with her now. And when she invited me to be her assistant at Horror-rama, I was like, I couldn't say no to that. So it was my first time in a plane, and I gotta say, Porter Airlines is awesome. And when I went to Toronto, it's like so much larger than life than here in Fredericton, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, all those buildings, but I had a blast, and Lisa showed me the tricks of the trade of the subway and the shuttle buses, and I get to hang out with her, and I went to Horror-rama, and horror film fans are just the best, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I see people, they go to the nightclubs. I don't drink, but I go there, I know the DJs and whatnot. And people just can't behave themselves when they're liquored up, you know. There's fights and misbehavior, but you go to a horror film convention and you expect things to be outrageous in a negative way, but no, everybody's like family there. I felt so welcomed by these strangers.
Yeah, totally, and I felt that as well, and I think that's very relevant in the conventions out there. And I enjoy performing at conventions so much.
I remember in 2017 when I was there, I had on a Clockwork Orange T-shirt, and this female dressed as a demented clown walked up to me, and she says, "I like your shirt." And I said, "Thanks." And she showed me her arm, and she had Clockwork Orange, Malcolm McDowell from the movie, tattooed on her arm, and I was like, it's just cool, people feel okay to come up and talk to other people, strangers. I don't get that so much here, but there it was awesome.
Yeah, and I performed in a show called Circus Shop of Horrors, and it was at the Toronto Fringe Festival. And we did a rendition on different movies. So we had different references from different movies, including Clockwork Orange and, of course, the classics. So it was a very exciting show.
What was the rendition from Clockwork Orange?
So we had it was all choreographed to music.
Okay.
So we had different segments that would take place. And there would be this character in the, there would be this character in the actual play that we created, where she would be going through different scenarios, not really knowing what's going on around her, but these different characters from the different movies are kind of appearing and disappearing. And it was an interesting show that we created. So
it kind of puts me in mind of Buster Keaton and Sherlock Jr. when he's appearing in the screen, and it's like everything around him is different, and he has to adjust to whatever's on screen with him.
Yes.
What other movies did you rendition with that?
Scream.
Okay.
So we had the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yes. I've had little Nell Campbell on from that.
With different characters from different slasher films.
Okay.
So I was dressed up as Michael Myers. We had another one of the aerialists dressed up as Scream. We had somebody else dressed up as Jason. And so we all danced to the music from the movie. And that was the opening number of the show.
Was anybody dressed up as Tommy Wiseau, or was he not scary enough?
No. We had, I guess not. I'm not sure. But it was a great experience overall. It gave me a lot of different experience in different things outside of magic. So I was learning, how to act, how to perform in a venue that I'm not used to performing in. So it was interesting.
Well, here's a question I ask all pretty much all of my guests is, I like to get their background. I'd like to get your background, but in particular also how you first not only got into magic, but what sparked it for you that you wanted to be a magician.
Okay, here we go. So when I was 5 years old, my parents took me to see a magic show at a party.
Okay.
And to this day, it still sticks with me. And the props, the illusions in the show, how everything took place in the show still stands out to me. So I try to give that experience back to my audiences by performing magic myself.
Okay. You know the first trick you mastered?
The first thing that I started to work on really was making a single card vanish.
Okay.
So I went to the local library. I started taking out books on magic, and I found a VHS tape called Quick Tricks with Peter London.
Okay.
And on that tape was very simple tricks, very basic tricks. And I learned how to back palm, how to make one card disappear with one hand. So that was one of the first things that I really started to master. And I also got a lot of magic sets growing up, so I would try to make up my own tricks out of the sets.
Okay.
Not really reading the instructions, kind of assuming this is how the trick is supposed to be done. And that's how I kind of went about it. and performing at the school talent show, and trying to get as many shows as I could growing up. I started performing on the streets when I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I started performing at the Port Credit Jazz and Blues Festival when I was 9. And I was making, $10 a night, $15 a night in tips.
Oh, that's
within
great.
3-4 hours. And then I started, in my early teens, I started developing routines. So that's kind of the backstory on that. And there's so much more to it, but that's really the backstory to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I met you in 2017 at Horror-rama. I thought it was cool, I walked over and you did, I forget who it was, but somebody at one of the vendors says, go see this guy, So I walked over to you and you did a card trick for me, and I think I took a picture of that. And anyway, you did a card trick, and I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And of course, last year at Horror-rama, I got to see you do an act, one that involved, of course, a dove, one involved some rings, and of course the cards, and
so you did have a chance to see that.
Oh, I
Fantastic.
took some pictures. Now, I have people say you should have took video, but I kind of wanted to just enjoy and take some snapshots, but I got some good shots of you doing these things, So
Great.
Yeah, and I just marveled at it. I got a chance to see it. I wasn't going to miss it because I wanted to. I'd never. Outside Peter Ravine, I hadn't seen anything like this, but I'd never seen Peter. I see Peter Ravine; he would hypnotize people, but I'd never seen magic like this before. And yeah, you did a great show. I'm not pulling your leg. You did a great set there.
Great, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate that. Well, the backstory on a lot of the stuff that I perform is based on the classics of magic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty obvious. But what I try to do is I try to bring these classics to a modern level with contemporary music and a certain stage presence that makes sense to the audience.
Okay.
So, and it takes a lot of time to develop the routines and the different acts, and yeah, so I'm glad that you've had a chance to see that live, because that's very important to me. Yeah, I'm really glad you had a chance to see that.
Well, I don't know whether your Facebook is open to adding you as a friend, but I mean, I got to say, if you added me, you could look at my photos and you could see the pictures.
Oh, great! Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I got it in one of my Toronto albums, my album section, and yeah, I got some good shots of you dressed in black and on the stage there, and yeah, I enjoyed that. I got to ask though about the dove, and I probably imagine a lot of magicians get this because doves are pretty popular at these, but how do you involve an animal in your act like that, prepare it or whatever?
I've been working with doves and birds. I have a parakeet as well.
Okay.
I've been working with birds in my manipulation act for about 12 years now. Mm-hmm. So what I've done is I've actually learned, I've taken the time to understand these animals the best that I can. Okay. And then I apply that understanding to training them.
Oh, wow.
And I have a bird that actually flies out above the audience and comes back and lands on my hand.
Okay.
And that takes a lot of training to get the bird to actually do that. So it's a process, and you could call me the dove whisperer if you wanted to.
Okay.
But no. Essentially, it's a lengthy process. It's a whole different style of magic. Mm-hmm. Dove magic is a whole different style of magic. So it takes a different understanding.
Yeah, that was the act you put on first on stage, and I just marveled at that because I have no idea, and I don't want you to give away any of your secrets, But you made that dove appear. I was like, wow, And I got a nice shot of that dove on your hand, flapping its wings, So
Nice.
yeah, so I just marveled at it, and I think you had some. Colorful streams or something there that you were pulling out or something, turned it into a
Yes.
dove or something. I can't remember now how the act went, but I got a nice shot of you with the dove, and I was like, wow, like I don't know how any of that goes about. And again, I don't want you to share your secrets because it spoils it for me, but I gotta
Yeah.
say, I enjoyed that. I saw you work with the rings, of course, and that was really impressive.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, it does take a certain of work and an understanding of the art form to make these routines seamless.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad you had a chance to see that. Now, what did you think of the card segment on stage with the cards?
Oh, that was great. It reminded me of that first year I was there when you did the card trick in front of me, But seeing it on stage, yeah, it was fantastic. That is, well, of course, they say one of the oldest tricks in the book, but it never gets old, especially the sleight of hand or whatever they want to call it. It still never fails to get the audience to marvel at it.
Yes, exactly.
I got a picture of you with the cards all fanned out.
Yes.
Yep, one of you in front of me when you performed for me in 2017, and one last year on stage. So I got a picture from each of the acts you did. So
Very nice.
yeah,
Yes. And you picked up one of the poster photos that I had there last year as well.
yeah, you signed it. Yep.
Yes. So yeah, I still remember that, and I'm yeah. So this is awesome.
Yeah. No, that was a fun experience. It was nice to see you
I
back.
appreciate the fanage.
Well, yeah, I had a good time with that. How did you get connected with Horror-rama? Was it through Chris Alexander or Suspect Video, or how did that come about?
Lewis, actually, I got in connection with Lewis. I found out about the convention because I was already performing at conventions, and I was sort of looking at the possibility of performing at that convention because a friend of mine was actually at that convention as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of felt, maybe if I put my name in, I could get a chance to perform there. And I did. So it just goes to show that if you put the work into promoting yourself and promoting your show and you do it the right way, you can get yourself out there and share what you have to offer as a performer. So yeah, it's a great opportunity.
So
definitely.
Did you perform for Lewis to show him what you could do, or how
I sent them videos via email of my work and my website, and from there they got interested. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it definitely fit because horror films and magic, they kind of go hand in hand. So you fit right in with the crowd there. And
well, I love both. So yeah,
yep,
it's great.
Lewis, is he with Suspect?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I think he's the one that had the black top hat, right?
Yes.
Okay, I remember him. Yep. Yeah, I was just in touch with Chris Alexander to see if I could get him on. He's prepping a couple films right now, so he has to get back to me on that. But no, it was great to show up there. Chris didn't know me by name, but he recognized me through Lisa. So and so did Lewis. So, but you remembered my name. That impressed me.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe that was magic as well.
Well, I remember everybody, at least try to.
Yeah.
by name, and I think that's important. So
So,
yeah.
so what's the most challenging trick you've tried to perform?
That's a tough question because what I'm doing now is a little bit more difficult than the sleight of hand. I'm finding with the illusions, the stage illusions that I'm designing now and building
Okay.
are difficult because you're going to get different criticism based upon your ideas if you just share your ideas without really testing them out first.
Yeah.
And I've learned that the hard way
Okay.
with the creative process.
Okay.
So what I'm learning now is the illusions, the stage illusions, and I'm taking it to that level now. So
I know we talked on earlier on the phone about Peter Ravine, and I'm going to assume you've seen him perform. Unfortunately, he's gone now, but I did see him perform and hypnotize people. He didn't hypnotize me, but it was fun watching that. Did you ever see him perform live?
I've heard stories about Peter Ravine.
Okay.
From what I've heard, he was an illusionist, or he was into performing illusions. Is that correct?
What I remember best, I saw him live once, and it was over 10 years ago now. I do remember he would get people to come up on stage voluntarily, and he would put them under, and he'd make them do things, and I would get a huge kick out of it, so it was funny.
Yes.
I know I saw an X-rated illusionist a few years later, and to each his own, but that one there I found was a little embarrassing. I felt bad for some of the people that went on stage. I won't give that person's name, but and people go up on stage, they don't want to be humiliated in a bad way, but Peter Ravine never left people humiliated. People had fun, and anybody that was under would come away from it if they were told what happened, they would laugh about it. He never humiliated people. Peter Ravine respected his audience and the people that participated. I know with the X-rated guy, though, I thought was funny. I had somebody that I knew went up on stage for that, and they did one that I thought was funny, and they made it so every time you shook this person's hand, they would have an orgasm. And so I walked up to my lady friend, and I shook her hand all the way out of the building. I said, "This is the safest sex I ever had."
Right on. Well, yes, magic can give us a lot of different experiences. And for me, magic is about, sharing an experience, giving a gift to an audience.
Yep.
Not embarrassing, not humiliating in any way. It's really about creating an experience. So that's really what I'm trying to do. And now I'm getting into directing and creating different YouTube videos. So I've been creating a YouTube series called Reality Magic.
Okay. And
that has different videos of me performing on the street in real world, under real world conditions.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I don't know. Would you like a bit of an idea of what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of months?
Yes, I'd love so. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so March 16th, I'm going to be performing at the 401 Mini Indie, and I'm creating a show. We've been creating a magic show called Illusion Show.
Okay.
And that features about 6 to 7 stage illusions, and it's an hour show with sleight of hand comedy and audience interaction, and it's a darker themed show, but it is family friendly.
Okay.
So, and on April 13th, I'm performing at the Browser's Den Bash, which is a magic convention celebration event taking place April 13th. And I'm going to be performing with magicians Garrett Thomas, Chris Capehart, Ted and Marion Outerbridge, and a few other magicians as well. And then as well, I'm going to be possibly performing at a haunted attraction. It's not set in stone yet, so I can't give away too many details. But what I will say is that I'm designing some awesome illusions for this haunted attraction, and it looks like I'm going to be very busy for the 2019 Halloween season.
Ah, yes.
So, yeah, and the haunt industry has been keeping me busy over the years as well. So,
yeah,
the haunted house industry.
I'm not sure what's happening with Horror-rama this year, you know. I'm hoping it still goes on. I had a blast at it, but seemed like the attendance was really good. But do you think you'll be back for a third year?
It all depends on where I'm going to be and what I have going on at that time. But you know, I like to try and do things differently if I can every couple of years. Mm-hmm. And it would be great to be back there. Mm-hmm. I would change up my repertoire completely and bring back something fresh and original. So, yeah, I would be definitely up for that.
You know, it's interesting because you can have a routine and you got to change things up. Is that hugely challenging to change things up, to make things fresh?
Say that again, sorry?
Is it really, really challenging to make things fresh and new?
Of course, because it's change and people aren't used to it, right? People aren't used to change. So, and I think the magician reminds us that, you know, that change is there. Mm-hmm. And in order to kind of stay relevant in magic, you've got to be on top of it all the time, on top of what you're creating. You know, I think it was Cirque du Soleil said, your show is like a specimen. It has to breathe, right? So that's the way that I've always kind of looked at it too. And yeah, so I think it's important to develop new material all of the time. And it's important to build and create. I have welders, I have people that are painting props for me now and making costumes, and I've been working on the music and the choreography for the show, and I've been working on the lighting, and so it's an ongoing process, but eventually what happens is a team comes together mm-hmm. that wants to push the show forward, and when that happens, it's amazing what can happen after that. So.
Okay. I know one funny story you shared with me, and I got to get the details on this. You said last year's Horror-rama, you got to perform for Linnea Quigley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met her both days. I got a couple of autographs and got my picture taken with her. I'm scheduling hopefully to come on here in April, you know, depending on what's happening. Mm-hmm. I am in touch, and I know she agreed to do my show, but I've been told to reach out at least in April, and I'll you know, to see how things are going. But loved Linnea. I attended her panel there as well, and had a nice chat with her. And talk about performing for her.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I got moving over towards the stage, and then I approached her, and I was like, you know, I'm a magician. Would you like to see some magic? And I did perform some close-up for her, and I got talking with her, And I explained to her, about all of the different shows that I've done and, how much I really enjoy performing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling her about how I was going to be on stage performing as well. So she had a chance to not only see my close-up magic, but she had a chance to see my stage performance as well.
Mm-hmm. And
she loved all of it.
Yeah.
And she now I can say I have her as one of my biggest fans. And she's a very supportive. She's become one of my supportive fans. So it's great, and it's so cool how you can become friends with and actually meet the people you admire in film, in magic, in music. That we have access to meet these people in the real world.
Yes.
It's like that, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's so cool. I've met magicians like Jason Byrne and Greg Fruin from Canada, and I've met Jeff McBride, and I've met Chris Angel, and I've met Linnea Quigley as an example, and I've met different musicians over the years, and people who I never would have ever imagined that I would ever meet. I have met. And it's all because I stayed within the framework of being a performer. So I think, it's so much, that just makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, I found since starting this podcast in 2015, it's like now I'm starting to go, like I went to Horror-rama a couple times, and it's interesting because you see the Oscars and the Golden Globes and the Emmys, and you see all this red carpet, and it's so phony because it's not what life is, and they want to give you this portrayal of something that really is not true. And I interviewed so many people from various different movies, and it's amazing to me how not only how real they are, but how they live normal lives, which is something that the media doesn't portray in Hollywood.
Well, we all have to sleep and eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
We all have to sleep and eat and do our own things
Mm-hmm.
outside of this entertainment industry that we're in. We all have to survive. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think, that makes total sense.
Yep. But, no, Linnea, did you do the card trick for her like you did for me when I first met you?
Yes. Actually, the one trick that I performed for her is where I I don't even want to spoil it, but I do a magic trick with a piece of thread.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've seen that one, but if you go on my YouTube series, it's on my YouTube series, and it's where I floss, I create the illusion. Well, it is an illusion after all, of flossing my nasal cavity with a piece of thread.
Okay. And what can you explain to me, like the reaction, the look in her eyes?
Well, what I tried to do was I tried to get it where I was pulling the thread out while she was beside me, and I got a photo of that, and it's on my Instagram.
Fantastic. Have you performed for any other celebrities?
Oh, yes. I've performed for Chris Angel, and I was very nervous. I was 16. He came to Toronto, and I got invited to perform at the CNE grounds, and it was called the Direct Energy Center at the time. And I was about 16. It was for Virgin Mobile.
Okay.
And it was called an event called Midnight Magic. And I go to this event, okay, it's going to be one of those small corporate events. No, this is not a small corporate event. This was a huge gala. And I see posters of Chris Angel all over the place, and I'm thinking, why am I even here? He's here. Why am I here doing this?
Yeah.
And it was great because then I ran into Zach Werner from Canadian Idol at the time, and I already met Zach at a show prior to that. So I said, Zach, I know that Chris Angel's here. Is there some way that you could arrange for me to meet him? And he said, I'll see what I can do. So he disappears. He comes back. He said, get your Sharpie, get your deck of cards. You're going to meet the guy, and you're going to perform some magic for him. And I was so nervous. I performed in a huge room, and there were at least maybe 200-300 people watching me perform for him. And I was too nervous. I was dropping cards on the floor. And then finally he just said, don't worry, it's all good. And he gave me an autograph, and on I went, and I was happy. I had finally met the guy that inspired me to create magic. And I had saw him on TV, perform on TV, and growing up, and that inspired me to do what I'm doing today as well. So,
yeah. Did you meet Dee Wallace at Horror-rama last year?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun at that. Yeah. So, you also mentioned, of course, our previous phone conversation that you have a love for film as well. I have not looked this up. My apologies, but are you in any films? Like, are you involved in any films?
I am. It's funny you ask that question because I received, after performing in the Circus shop show that we did, I received the offer to perform, not perform, but to act in a television series.
Oh, fantastic.
And, well, I didn't make the cut, and that happens.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that it was my first major television series audition.
Okay.
And it taught me so much. So I'm now getting into acting and different types of acting so I can bring that into my magic and also act outside of magic, hopefully in commercials and in film. And I'm also getting into creating film as well. So I'm getting into creating avant-garde kind of themed films that are more geared towards imagination, the way my imagination works and stuff like that. So, and so I'm creating stuff all the time. Either it has it be in film or in magic or in music. I'm creating stuff all the time.
I know that you and I had talked, and we both share a love for Tom Savini.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of magic, he doesn't quite do magic, but I'll tell you, his gore effects are fantastic, and how he
has a book out there actually called Grand Illusions.
Yes, he does, yeah. And, of course, he was, I believe, a photographer in Vietnam, which is why his effects look as real as they do. And I guess I've seen a lot of effects, and I'm not a big fan of a lot of the CGI that I'm seeing lately, but Tom just does it right from scratch, and the stuff he does is pretty impressive when he puts it to screen, especially these independent films.
The first time I saw Day of the Dead by Romero, I was like, who's creating this stuff? It's so realistic looking. And I found out he was the guy behind creating all the effects for that movie. Him and Greg Nicotero and the guys that now have KMBFX. And to find out that they created all of the special effects makeup for that movie was like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yes.
Very inspiring to me. So,
well, apparently,
I'm a huge Savini fan.
Apparently, he was a guest at the very first Horror-rama in 2014. I wasn't there for that, but
wow.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get to meet him at one of these conventions. But are you a big horror film fan like myself?
Oh, yes. yes. It's just I don't have the time to watch them right now because I'm so busy creating my own world, right? So, I've really sunken my teeth into different different movies over the years. Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, the classics. Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course, Scream, and and of course I was exposed to Scary Movie when I was like 11, 12, which is more of a comedy, but it still plays on the old classics, like the old slasher films. So yeah, and Dawn of the Dead and the Romero films and Evil Dead and all the Sam Raimi, Army of Darkness and stuff like that. All of those films inspired my thinking in one way or another when it comes to magic or music or creating stuff. So they're great movies.
It's interesting you mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've interviewed two people from that film. I had John Dugan on here yesterday.
Wow.
Yep. And speaking of magic, it's impressive the makeup job they did on him to play Grandpa. He said it took 7 hours to get him in that makeup. And I know, I said to him, when I first saw you in that film, it's like I thought it was just a corpse, like a dummy. No, that was him.
Huh.
Yeah. So, do you have any charities, or I'm pretty sure you get a web page. You want to plug that on here?
Yes. So my web page is www. Did I say too many W's there? No, 3. Okay, yeah. Good. RyanBrownMagic.weebly.com.
Okay. And you've got a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, it's called Ryan Brown's Reality Magic. And you asked if I have any charities.
Yes.
I have one show that I'm performing in for CAMH. It's called One Brave Night.
Okay. Friday,
May 10th. And that's to raise money for mental health and addiction. I love giving back. We were going to do a show for the Shriners organization. Didn't work out. I've done shows for Sick Kids Hospital, for the Canadian Cancer Society, for different organizations. So what I've learned is how important it is to do these shows.
Yes.
To get yourself out there. Now, the show that I'm doing for the Center of Addiction and Mental Health is called One Brave Night. It's on May 10th, and I'm going to be performing my magic and illusions in that show.
Here's a question. You mentioned a lot of your classic acts, like the cards and the rings and the doves. Are you ever going to do one where you make a person disappear, like behind a sheet, or one where you saw somebody hidden half in a box? Like I know those go way, way back.
In Illusion Show, we're performing 7 stage illusions.
Okay.
And the differences between stage illusions and between sleight of hand is that stage illusions are performed on a grander scale. So you're talking about sawing somebody in half, levitation, making somebody vanish, making somebody appear, making somebody disappear. There are different illusions out there. And in Illusion Show, I'm going to be sawing my assistant in half. I'm going to be changing places twice in the show, and I don't want to spoil the rest of it, but I don't think I don't think this is going to air by the time I do the show anyway, so that's okay. But I'm going to be doing a bunch of different new illusions in the show. It's really exciting because we choreographed all of these to music, to very modern music, and sometimes very popular music. I've used, Fatboy Slim and all sorts of different music in the show in the past. So, so we try to keep it fresh and modern.
Now, how challenging is it to work with other people on stage, like with the sawing in half and stuff like that? Because I know it's one thing to, you do your card act, and then you involve other people. You got to get them on the same thought process, right?
The training is a whole different part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but it is, definitely a whole different part of the process, because it's not just, you're not just spending time on your own now working on these tricks.
That's right.
You're now, and I don't, without giving too much away, I what I will say is that it takes a lot of work between both the assistant, the co-performer, and the performer to make it look seamless.
Yes.
Make it look really good on stage. It takes a lot of time. So.
Yes, absolutely. So, how do you encounter somebody like an assistant that gets on the same page? Like, where do you locate this person? How long's this person been with you, for one?
Well, that changes based upon the performer's schedule. And one day my hope is to find an assistant that is on the same page with me on the creative level.
Okay.
In regards to my ideas, my imagination, and wants to contribute more to that. So that's my hope.
Are you going to involve more animals in your act?
No tigers, sir. No.
No tigers?
No tigers. I will be hopefully incorporating more birds over the years, but no more animals in the show as of now. I'm just going to be focusing on the new illusions and adding more audience interaction. But to be completely honest, my main focus now is focusing on the creative aspect. What is my magic? And how can I create original ideas that are going to stand out from the rest of the pack? So that's really what I'm trying to create now. And that's tough. But it's worth it. It's totally worth it, because then you not only have your own performance, you have your own act, your own routine, your own repertoire. So that's what I've been working hard to develop, really.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I've seen you perform, and for anybody that hears this interview, I can testify to the fact that Ryan Brown is fantastic at what he does. I've seen it right in front of me, and I can't explain it. And I've seen you on stage there at Horror-rama, and yes, I had a great time. I watched the whole thing.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, you're right on stage there with all those figures, like The Exorcist and Chucky, and
Yes.
that was
and
interesting.
those were made, I believe, by the butcher shop. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, those were great. Well, I'm not always easily impressed by that stuff, but I'd never seen it up that close before,
That's why they call it close-up magic.
Yeah. Well, you see it on TV, and then you see it up close, and it's like, how'd he do that? How'd he do that? It's kind of like when we're going back to Tom Savini, like when he did Friday the 13th, people wondered how'd he make it so the arrowhead went up through Kevin Bacon's neck,
So yeah, no, definitely we work hard to create stuff that's realistic looking, and that's always been my goal.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't see that, I don't know what to say, because I've worked tremendously hard to bring it to a level of realism for my audiences. And that I think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to make that more obvious. But you can't. I don't think artistically you can put pressure on that. You just got to let that kind of unfold on its own.
Well,
if that makes sense.
I have a magic trick for you. Make spring come.
Well, we're looking at 7 degrees here as a high.
Well, I'm going to subscribe to your YouTube channel.
I've already subscribed to yours, so.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, I have to.
I was even talking about your show on Facebook today.
Oh, was you? Well, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I've got to subscribe to yours because I actually did not know you had a YouTube until you brought
Yeah,
it
I've
up.
got about 22 videos on there.
Okay.
And there's another interview on there that you may be interested in as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, you know
Actually, I
what?
think there's a couple of them.
Well, you know what? I'm open to having you on again, maybe next year, to get updates on how your act is coming and the various places you perform at. But anybody that gets a chance, go see Ryan Brown live. You will not be disappointed. I've seen his act firsthand at Horror-rama, but I imagine when he's right in front of all these people, I imagine it's going to get grander and more spectacular as he continues to work on his act, and it's a great show.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to promote before we close off?
I think that's just about it. I'm going to take a look here and see if there's anything else. Let's take a look. Well, I'm going to be performing at a show called Newest Trick in the Book.
Okay.
And that's going to be in April and in May. I don't have dates set for that yet.
Okay.
But that is going to be at Seascape Science Fiction Bar and Lounge.
Okay.
Downtown Toronto.
I love the name, Newest Trick in the Book.
Yes. So it's an open mic night for magicians.
Okay.
And it's a very popular show right now. It's fantastic. It's just blowing up all over the place. It's great.
Fantastic. Well, you got to get here to New Brunswick sometime too,
Yeah, and when I get out that way, you're going to be the first person to know. So.
Oh, thanks.
Yes,
well, I'll definitely go. I think that would be terrific. So.
And then we can do this all over again.
We can do this all over again. Well, I'm open to having you on again, so we'll definitely keep in touch.
All right.
Yes. Before I let you go, do you mind doing a plug for my show? Sure.
So this is Ryan Brown on Python's Paradise.
Fantastic. Well, Ryan, keep the magic alive, and anybody that gets to see your show, absolutely. I think that it's a great show.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch, and I'll subscribe to your YouTube.
All right.